Hey everyone, in this video we're going to talk about how we train Michelle Rodriquez as Holga in the new Dungeons & Dragons movie, Among Thieves.
Holga is a barbarian, lives to fight foes and everyone else.
So I'm sitting here with Hunter Seagroves, who's been a colleague of mine for how many years?
5 years.
5?
Yeah, 2017.
This is my secret weapon right here. So many times I get jobs that I can't do on my own. I might be on one production and then someone wants me to help them with another. That's when Hunter steps in and helps me. So together we cover a lot of ground. We're doing a lot of movies and we work with artists together. And on this particular project, I had the honor of prepping Michelle here in LA to build her up, and then Hunter was the one who flew over to Belfast to film with her. So you were on set for 5 months?
Yeah, 5 months, April through August.
Which is a long time. The average Hollywood productions anywhere between 4 to 6 months, excluding prep. But in this video, we're going to talk about how I prepped her, how she trained, and then Hunter's going to talk a little bit about how they trained on set to give you guys an idea. So I had Michelle about 3 months here in LA before we got to the point when you guys traveled.
Yeah, and by the time I stepped in with Michelle, she had already put on the better part of 20 pounds of muscle working with you.
Yeah, and then that's one challenge you get to, where you want to be when you start filming. And then you have the challenge of maintaining and keeping that physique while staying injury-free when filming. And that's not only very important, it's pretty hard.
Yeah, it was. And that was a unique and beneficial experience because this was the first time that I had spent that much time on set. Previously with projects that we had shared, it was typically like I would meet our client, maybe before their call time in the morning, but the shooting schedule was so rigorous. There was no choice except for us to be training on set and getting in as much work as we could in between takes and in between setup.
So I started prepping Michelle 3 months before she traveled with Hunter to Belfast, and I always talk about different training cycles when preparing an actor for a role. The first one is obviously you want to see how someone moves. You want to make sure they move the right way so they don't get injured. I want to be able to build a strong foundation so whoever I'm working with, they can squat, they can hinge, they can do all those important things so they don't get injured further down the road when we're filming.
Right, of course, because, if a program isn't sustainable, then it can't be successful, and staying injury-free is a massive part of that.
So the goal for this movie was to put on as much muscle mass as possible and strength. We wanted the character to really look vicious and strong, like she was capable of brute strength. So a lot of the focus during this prep was to build as much muscle mass as possible, yes, but also to move and to mimic a lot of the movements she would later do on set.
By the time I stepped in with Michelle, that mindset had already been completely installed. I mean, she was barbarian mode through and through, and she was all in on doing whatever it took to get the necessary volume in, to get as strong and feeling as fortified as possible.
So when prepping Michelle, I had her on a 3-day split. Day 1, which is, I want to start heavy right off the bat. So leg is normally my day 1. Day 1 was legs, core, some mobility work. There's always a little cardio / warm up in there. Day 2, push, pull, chest back. Day 3, arms, outside shoulders. And on every day, I like to throw in core there as well, but I like to work different parts of the core every single session. So that was more or less the split that I had Michelle on during the prep. Obviously, these splits and these typical programs that we put out, it changes. You have to adapt. If you're a good trainer, you're willing to adapt. But a typical week would be a 3-split week. And we would work 5 days a week and we would take 2 days off. And we would take the days off whenever she needed to take time off or when she wanted to take time off. I always say it doesn't really matter if you do 5 days straight and then they take 2 days off, or if you do 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, another day off. As long as you work hard when you're in the gym and you rest hard when you're out of the gym, it'll be fine. On a typical leg day, we would start with a 10-minute warm-up, some mobility work, then some banded and glute activation, then move on to a front squat or a goblet squat. When you have an object in front of you, it keeps the load on the spine to a minimal, so one of my favorites. Bulgarian split squat was another favorite that we did a lot of. I always put skaters or skater jumps in my program, so that was another go-to.
Such a good exercise.
So recruit a lot of fast twitch fibers, and you have that lateral movement, which is so important to work on as well. Then we would finish with a core exercise like stir the pot or something isometric for the core. I'm actually going to put this program on my app, though the full program is going to be on the app for anyone who's interested to do like a full 6-week thing. If you want to train like Gal Gadot in Wonder Woman 84, Alicia Vikander in Tomb Raider, Alexander Skarsgård in Tarzan, Ben Affleck in Justice League, James McAvoy in Glass, I share all those exact programs on my app. I also have body weight programs, nutrition guides. You can also message me in the app. So while prepping, Michelle was eating about 5 meals a day. Breakfast would consist of something protein-based. I'm a big fan of eggs. I'm always trying to get my clients to eat a lot of eggs. About 3 eggs in the morning, 18 to 20 grams of protein. Protein shakes every once in a while. I mean, it's hard to stomach eggs 7 days a week for a long period of time, so you have to come up with alternatives. But aiming to get 20-30 grams of protein in the morning. Then that would be followed by a snack about 3 hours later, something protein-based, maybe with some fiber. Lunch would consist of some chicken, beef, or fish to get the protein. Then a slow-carb source like farro, barley, and then some good fats in there, like from nuts or avocado, and a ton of vegetables. 3 hours later, another protein-based snack, like a protein shake or something. And dinner would be the same as lunch, a good protein source, slow carbs, good fats, vegetables. So we're shooting for about 1 gram of protein per pound body weight in a day. It was also really important to get enough fat and carbs in. You see, when you build muscle mass, you want to make sure that you're not in a calorie deficit. You want to make sure to eat enough protein, fat, and carbs in a day so you can build the most amounts of muscle mass possible. At the same time, you don't want to be overeating a ton, because then you're just gaining a ton of body fat, and that's not the objective here either. So that was what the prep looked like. And what adjustments did you do when she came over to Belfast?
Well, you know, when you have a system that works, you know, you don't need to change too much. So I did everything I could to stick to the script, you know, sticking to that 3-day split, legs off the top, push-pull, and then the arms, the outside shoulder with core work peppered throughout. The only change came as production started to ramp up and the schedule sort of drags on, becomes a little bit more rigorous, and it gets hard to get that early morning training session in before your call time.
I just want to throw that in there. We're big proponents of morning training to set a mental or physical standard in the beginning of the day that you take with you on set.
And I feel like that's a preference for a lot of people too. It feels great to get your workout in first thing of the day. Just, you know, like the days get long and it's tough to shoot 12 hours a day and then turn around and wake up early and then bust your ass in the gym. So as production wore on, we had to get a bit creative, and that was a nice learning curve for me, was being able to get an adequate amount of sets and reps or volume in amongst the shooting schedule. So we had to kind of deconstruct the split a little bit, and just what I did was kind of just make sure that Michelle was getting about 15 to 25 sets per muscle group each week. Some days it was harder to hit legs on set just because, you know, she's in costume. It's not always the easiest thing to move around in. You know, the makeup person gets a little upset if, you know, the actor's dripping sweat. So we would kind of save legs for when we could go to the gym, and we'd really hit the legs hard. And then, you know, in between setups on set, we'd get a little disco pump for the biceps, hit some lateral raises, and then just make sure that we're hitting the shoulder from multiple angles to keep the joint healthy.
Makes a lot of sense. And people don't know how hard it is to work on a movie or an action movie or a physical movie like this. The days are so long and it's exhausting. and not for us, for Michelle, obviously. That's also a thing. It's so important to make sure that we don't overtrain them while on set, so they get injured. But at the same time, you want them to keep that shape, the muscle mass, and many times keep the body fat low. So it's actually really tricky to figure that out. So did you make any adjustments to the food while filming, or did you stick to the 5 days a meal every 3 hours?
I tried to. I tried to. Sometimes, scenes go on long, you got to do multiple takes. So there were days when we could only do 3 meals a day. I would try always to make sure that she was eating as consistently as possible. But, sometimes life happens and we could only get 3 or 4 meals a day in.
Amen. That's how it is.
Yeah.
But she looked good. And I have to say, one thing that I didn't mention before is that it's not like we were super strict when every single meal had to be perfect. The balance is super important. So I always say 17 out of 20 meals should be on point. Then eat food that you enjoy 3 out of 20. Did you do something similar on set?
100%. Like I learned from you, if something isn't sustainable, it's not successful. So you definitely have to leave a little bit of wiggle room to color outside of the lines.
So how was it when you look back on it now? I mean, I love Michelle as a person, as an actress as well, but I had the best time. How did you experience spending 5 months on set with Michelle?
It was excellent. Michelle's an incredibly hard worker, and over the course of the production, we got to know one another quite well, and I just can't say enough positive things about her.
Because that's the thing, when you work with someone for that long and you spend days, the entire day, day together with someone, you get to know them.
Yeah, and at times you're not always at your best in the wee hours of the morning or, at the end of a long day. So yeah, you get to see it. She looks incredible and she got very strong.
I mean, she gained 20 pounds of muscle and she looks amazing. If you've seen the movie or seen the posters or the trailer, yeah, she's impressive.
She really is. She's such a hard worker. She showed up, she put in the time, she stuck to the plan as best as we could nutrition-wise, and it definitely shows.
There you have it, guys. This is how Michelle Rodriquez trained to become Holga Kilgore in Dungeons & Dragons. Thank you, Hunter.
My pleasure, bro.